My name is Caleb Gertz. I'm a King College student majoring in psychology, and I'm going to be speaking very briefly today about major depressive disorder and the effect that it has on those who suffer from it in a global context. So let's get right into it.
Alright, so again we're going to be talking about major depressive disorder, the causes, effects, and treatment around the world. So first we need a clear understanding of what major depressive disorder is, and as a lot of people know, it is a mental illness that is characterized by low mood, low self-esteem, and loss of interest in pleasurable activities, meaning something you may have enjoyed before, you'll now no longer find any enjoyment in whatsoever. And what needs to be said definitely is that depression is oftentimes confused with everyday ups and downs, mood swings, whether it be a bad day or something. You'll hear a friend or a family member say, yesterday I felt depressed, but today I feel better now. And the truth is that it's not real depression. Depression is quite resilient, and most of the time it can last up to 8 months to a year or even longer. So it is an all-encompassing, disabling condition that affects one's social and work life, sleeping and eating habits, and overall health. And that needs to be understood, is that unless you've experienced it yourself, it really does just completely encompass your entire life. It really just sucks the enjoyment out of everything. So next we have the causes of depression. First there's the biological aspect, which is a lack of serotonin, lack of norepinephrine, and a lack of dopamine, which are chemicals in the brain associated with pleasure. So a lack of those is definitely associated with the depressed feelings one might feel. Then we also have an environmental aspect, such as increased stress from family or work, recent death of close friend or relative. And we're not really quite sure which of those occurs first, whether that be you already have a chemical imbalance and then the environmental aspect sets it off, or the environmental aspect causes the chemicals to get out of whack. I'm not quite sure which causes the other, but I tend to kind of lean towards the environmental aspect of it. So just real quick, some depression statistics in the U.S. Males as high as 3 to 5% of all the male population will become depressed, seriously depressed at some point in their lives. Females is about double, about 8 to 10%. I'm not really sure why the female rate is double the male rate, whether that be biological or environmental. And also anyone who does experience depression has a 17% possibility of having lifetime prevalence, meaning they will battle with it their entire life. And most commonly depression sets in between the ages of 30 to 40, though there is cases documented in very young children and also in very old people who have never dealt with it their entire lives. So definitely could happen to anyone. So next we have the suicide statistics. So I guess the point of this is to understand why we really care about depression, whether or not someone can just work through the depression and then get out of it. But really the real part of it that we want to combat is the suicidal ideology that goes along with it. In the U.S., around 3.4% of people suffering from major depression will commit suicide, which is an extremely high number of people. And 60% of people who commit suicide were diagnosed with major depression disorder. And so we don't know about whether or not the other 40% may have just been misdiagnosed or were not diagnosed at all. Also, some antidepressants have been correlated with an increased risk in suicidal ideation when you first start taking the medication, because it raises your energy level but not necessarily your mood. So before you might have been too depressed to actually carry out the suicidal plan, you will have the energy to do so. So that's a very unfortunate aspect of the medicine side. Also, approximately 80% of Americans suffering from depression are not receiving treatment, and I'm not quite sure why that is. If it's just a sense of hopelessness that they can't be helped, or just not understanding what is really happening to them. And also, we see depression in very young children, as I said before, suicide being the third highest cause of death from young people ages 10 to 24. Okay, and next we have major depressive disorder globally. So is this something that primarily Americans deal with, or are Americans better off than others? And really we can see it pretty much around the world, some countries higher than others. Depression has been linked to 90% of suicides in the world, the highest rate of suicide being documented in Korea and Eastern Europe, which is most likely economical reasons, not enough jobs, or very low group affiliation with an overall country or culture. The lowest suicide rate is documented in the Eastern Mediterranean region and Central Asian republics, which would include China, even though it is the highest population in the world, or second highest. I think it might be the highest, but they actually have an extremely low rate of suicide, and part of that is believed because of their extremely high group affiliation they have. And also, youth suicide is a very major issue around the world. Is the fastest growing age group of suicide in the world. Okay, and next, some treatments and coping mechanisms from around the world. I'm going to give you one quick example. In Iran, there are 3 distinct cultures that all live amongst each other: the Turks, the Kurds, and the Fars. And just a little bit of how they deal with depression. Each one has unique methods of coping, but some similarities can be seen, especially in the Turks and the Kurds, who are far more likely to seek social support from family and friends, while also engaging in pleasurable activities. So a high part of that is keeping their activity level high, and battling the desire to become more and more isolated, while we have the Fars, who are more likely to contact a doctor and seek treatment. And so from that, we want to know which one works better. Really, there was not a clear winner, but we did see that whether or not someone believed that the treatment would help them played a role in whether or not the treatment was successful. So if someone's going in and taking a medication, they don't think it's going to help, it probably won't. But if they do, the medication can work with their body and help them. So that was kind of cool. So in conclusion, just 4 quick points. We have an increased stress plus lack of group affiliation equals an increased probability of depression. And then from that, we have depression plus lack of social support will equal increased risk of suicide. And so for treatment, we have medication plus psychosocial therapy plus social support equals the highest possibility of successful treatment. That would be kind of touching the bases of everything, biological and environmental, because oftentimes either one has caused the other, or they are both just interwoven, so they both need to be treated. And last, definitely what we do not want is hopelessness plus isolation will equal resilient depression. So that is definitely something we want to understand on that. So yeah, that's about it.
So I hope this presentation has been informative, and you can see a little bit of why we need to have a deep understanding of this issue so as better to deal with it and to help the people that we love most and the people around us. So thanks a lot for watching.